The two young men were travelling the same way, so they agreed to ride onwards together. The Count told his servants,
"You can follow and catch up with me later."
Then he rode off with his friend through the forest. On the way, they first talked happily about their memories of army life. Then the Count became a little boring when he started speaking about his future bride.
"Everyone says she's so beautiful, and I'm really looking forward to married life,"
he said. In those days, German forests were as full of robbers as German castles were full of ghosts. So it's not surprising that, when they reached the loneliest part of the Odenwald, they were attacked by a group of thieves. Both fought bravely, but soon they were losing the battle. Just then, the Count's servants arrived and ran to help them. The criminals ran away. But before leaving, one of them pushed his knife deep into the Count's side, leaving him badly hurt on the forest floor. Slowly and carefully, his servants carried him back to the city of Würzburg. There, they took him to a man of the church, who was also famous for his doctorly skill. But it was too late for half of the man's skills to be of any use. No medicines could save the young Count now. He was dying. His last words were to the friend who stood at his bedside.
"Go at once to the castle of Lanshort and explain why I couldn't come to meet my bride."
He wasn't perhaps the most loving of lovers, but he was a serious young man, and asked Starkenfaust to give the sad news as nicely as possible.
"If you don't, I won't rest in my grave,"
he said.
"I'll do what you ask,"
Starkenfaust promised, giving the dying man his hand. The Count took it and held it for a while, but soon he became feverish and began talking crazily.
"I mustn't break my promise. I must ride to Lanshort myself to meet my bride."
He died while he was trying to get out of bed, run out of the door, and jump onto his horse. Starkenfaust cried a little over his friend's early death. Then he began to think of the difficult job he'd agreed to do.
"How can I visit the castle of my father's enemy unasked, bringing depressing news that will destroy his hopes and happiness?"
he said to himself. On the other hand, he was very interested in meeting this young Katzenelnbogen woman, whom people said was so beautiful, and who was kept locked away from the world in her father's castle. He loved beautiful women, and he enjoyed adventures. Before leaving Würzburg, he arranged for the Count's funeral to take place in the cathedral, where several of von Altenburg's relatives were buried. The rest he left to the young man's servants. Part 2. Now let's return to the Katzenellenbogen family, who were waiting for their guest, and for their dinner. Night came, and still the Count hadn't arrived. Their dinner couldn't wait. The meats were nearly burnt. The cook was half worried to death. And everyone in the castle had hungry faces, like soldiers who hadn't eaten for months. In the end, the Baron gave orders for the meal to begin immediately. Everyone was just sitting down at the table when suddenly they heard the sound of a horn at the castle gate. A stranger was outside, asking to enter. Quickly, the Baron went to welcome his future son-in-law. The gate opened, and the stranger, horn in hand, waited outside. He was a tall, fine-looking young man on a black horse. His face was pale, but he had shining, mysterious eyes, and a look of proud sadness about him. The Baron was surprised to see he'd come alone, without any servants. At first, he felt annoyed.
Doesn't that young man realize this is an important visit and an important family he is marrying into?
But then he calmed down, saying to himself,
His youthful excitement has made him hurry here before his servants.
I'm sorry,
began the stranger, getting down from his horse.
to arrive like this at this hour.
The Baron stopped him from saying more by welcoming him warmly and politely. He was proud of his own skill at speaking. Once or twice, the stranger tried to stop the river of fine words, but he couldn't. In the end, he just looked down at the ground and let it all wash over him. By the time the Baron had finished, they were deep inside the castle. Once more, the stranger tried to speak, but this time he was stopped by the arrival of the women of the family, bringing his nervous young bride to meet him. He stared at her for a moment, like a man in a dream. His eyes shone lovingly as he took in her beautiful face and figure. One of the unmarried aunts whispered something in the young woman's ear. She tried to speak, lifting her bright blue eyes from the ground to look at her bridegroom nervously. But the words died on her soft lips. Then she looked back at the floor, although there was now the ghost of a smile on her pretty face, showing she'd liked what she'd seen. Indeed, it was impossible for a young girl of 18, who often dreamt of love, not to be pleased by this good-looking young man. Because their guest had arrived so late, the Baron said,
Let's leave all talk of the wedding until tomorrow.
He at once invited the young man to join them at the long table in the great hall, where dinner waited for them. From the walls, the pictures of the Baron's hard-faced ancestors looked down on them as they ate. Next to them, there were old battle flags with lots of holes in them, several badly beaten bits of armour, and the heads of a number of wild animals from the nearby forest that different Katzenelnbogens had hunted, caught, and killed over the centuries.